Welcome to the Scoop with Dukes. I'm your host, Philip Dukes, aka Dukes the Scoop. Check me out on Twitter and Instagram at Dukes the Scoop. And please be sure to hit the like and subscribe button. This is an AU Scoop. And if you haven't already, go become a member. You can subscribe to join the channel if you look in the description. Also, episode is brought to you by the International Voice. They make great Christian-based clothing. So you can go down and they got mugs, they got phone cases. Look in the description, you'll see a link to International Voice. All right, guys. Hugh Freeze is out as Auburn head coach, and the hire for interim head coach is DJ Durkin. Currently, when you look at Twitter, and you guys know how I feel, you follow me, you know exactly how I feel about only getting a little bit of information and forming an opinion. If you look at Twitter, there are basically two schools of thought when it comes to DJ Durkin. A, he's a great football coach. The defense loves him. They're playing lights out. One of the best defenses in the country. He deserves the job. And B, he was at the helm of a program that had a player die from heat stroke, and which some people feel like there was a toxic culture at Maryland and that he was responsible in some ways. And he should, no question, not be the head coach at Auburn University. So this video is neither an indictment or an endorsement. It's neither. What it is some research that I've done so people can form the proper opinion. Either way, it doesn't matter how you feel about it. In my opinion, it's about getting the information and making sure we say the player's name. Jordan McNair was a real person. Jordan McNair was a 19-year-old athlete. Jordan McNair was a son, his mom's only child. And Jordan McNair has a foundation that his parents put together to make sure that the dangers of overexhaustion and heat stroke don't affect more families because of lack of knowledge and lack of education. Let's talk about Jordan McNair. Jordan McNair, the son of Marty McNair and Tanya Wilson, a four-star recruit ranked in the top 25, according to ESPN and Scout at the time. Was an offensive tackle for McDonough High School in Owens Mill, Maryland. Was named to the American Family Insurance All-USA Maryland football team in 2016. The Baltimore Sun All-Metro First Team 2015 and 2016. He also was considering Ohio State, Penn State, Rutgers, Alabama, Auburn, Boston College, and Duke, but chose to go to the University of Maryland. Played in one game as a true freshman in 2017. Always, anytime you see an interview about him, they talk about his personality, how good of a person he was, and just a really bright kid with a bright future ahead of him. I think it's important that we say his name so you can, because I think when we get on Twitter sometimes we say, you see people who, and I want to separate something. There are guys who get on Twitter or any of these message boards and they want to say DJ Durkin killed a kid. That's what people are saying. And they don't even have the respect or the decency or to mention the deceased or mention a young man whose life was cut short, because it's not about Jordan McNair. It's about, we want to take a shot at Auburn. And I think it's important to recognize the difference between the two. People are saying, oh, well, they've got a coach. Look, the jokes that are being made around it and the pot shots being made at Auburn University that are ingenuine or not genuine. Disgenuous is probably the best word. Because, and if I just want to be completely correct, let's go with disingenuous at best, right? So I did want to separate those two. But I think it's important to understand what happened, what led up to this, the aftermath of it, and allow people to form their own opinions about DJ Durkin and his candidacy for Auburn's head coaching job. So 2018, there are a few articles out. Adam Cole has one that's out. Shout out to Adam Cole. I went back to 2018. This is the ESPN timeline done by Adam Rittenberg and Tom Van Haren. They walked through it, and they started um, from DJ Durkin's hiring to DJ Durkin's firing. All right, DJ Durkin, December 2015, is hired as Maryland's head coach, previously as the defensive coordinator at the University of Michigan, and was brought to Maryland after Randy Edsall was fired. January 2016, DJ Durkin hires Rick Court as head strength and conditioning coach at Maryland. Court had been in the same position at Mississippi State prior to being hired at Maryland. All right, this is important to this entire story. And so Rick Court, guy, former baseball player, college baseball player. Okay, so one of the things that happened in this whole thing was that when DJ Durkin was hired at Maryland, he said that Rick Court was his most important hire. First phone call he made, there's a 2016 Sports Illustrated article where he talked about the importance of Rick Court and their relationship and what they wanted to do to change the program. Rick Court first coached along DJ Durkin on Urban Meyer's staff at Bowling Green in the early 2000s. Court eventually became the head strength coach at Bowling Green, then the same head strength coach at Toledo and San Diego State before moving to Mississippi State. So during his time at Mississippi State, I believe there was some overlap between he and John Cohen. John Cohen being a head baseball coach before becoming the associate athletic director and then the permanent athletic director. But you guys know John Cohen was a baseball coach at Mississippi State for a long time, very successful. And so I'm sure they had some type of overlap. I just put that in the back of your head. So now, just so you paint the picture of Rick Court and the reason why his name is so important in this whole case, because as we go through this, you'll see that there was not a clear delineation between Rick Court and DJ Durkin. And that's probably part of the reason why you see so many of so much of the negative stuff that comes out around Durkin. Let's go to, so right now we're at 2016. He hires Rick Court. All right, they skip over what happens between 2016 and 2018. We'll get into some of that stuff as far as what Rick Court, some of the findings of some of these investigations. May 29, 2018, offensive lineman Jordan McNair is hospitalized after showing signs of heat stroke and exhaustion while participating in a team workout. McNair has difficulty finishing a set of 110-yard sprints and is found to have a body temperature of 106 degrees at a local hospital. Sources later tell ESPN.com that McNair did not finish the runs on his own strength and was eventually walked around the practice field before being taken for treatment. After evaluating McNair at the football facilities, EMT responders call in a male patient with a seizure, and McNair is transported to Washington Adventist Hospital. June 13, 2018, roughly 2 weeks later, McNair dies in the hospital at age 19. The cause of death has since been determined to be a heat stroke. June 14, 2018, the next day, Maryland holds a news conference with acting athletic director Damon Evans and Durkin, along with team physician Dr. Frank Henn. Evans details the workout and timeline of events that led to McNair's eventual hospitalization. Evans announces that an external investigation will be conducted, but declines to name the organization that will conduct it. Okay, let's remember that. June 19, 2018, Maryland announces the hire of Rod Walters, a sports medicine consultant who oversaw athletic training at App State and South Carolina, to conduct a review into the death of McNair. 2018, June 21st, the McNair family retains the law firm of Murphy, Falcon, and Murphy to represent the family. Billy Murphy, one of the attorneys from the firm, later says a lawsuit is likely. This was confirmed by ESPN.com. June 25th, 2018, Damon Evans, is named full-time athletic director, who had been at Maryland since 2014, serving as acting athletic director since April 2018. August 3rd, 2018, practice officially starts, and according to sources, the culture of bullying led by Court continues. Now, this is straight from the ESPN.com timeline. August 10th, 2018, ESPN.com reports allegations of a toxic coaching culture under Durkin and Court. Multiple sources close to the program describe past behavior of intimidation, humiliation, and verbal abuse that created a culture of fear for the players. The sources also reveal allegation of unhealthy eating habits and using food punitively against the players. Maryland announces 2 staff members were being placed on administrative leave, according to sources at a staff meeting. Evans informed the team that head football athletic trainer Wes Robinson and director of athletic training Steve Nordwall were placed on leave. Durkin sends a letter to the parents of the players saying an upcoming report by ESPN.com may prompt questions about the program. On August 11, 2018, Maryland announces Durkin has been placed on administrative leave pending an external review. Evans says in a statement, "I am extremely concerned by the allegations of unacceptable behaviors by members of our football staff detailed in recent media reports." Sources tell ESPN.com that Rick Court was also placed on leave, and offensive coordinator Matt Canada is named the interim head coach. Excuse me. President Wallace D. Lowe, Maryland President Wallace D. Lowe releases the following statement. "I am profoundly disturbed by media reports of intimidating conduct by Maryland football coaches and staff. Today, athletic director Damon Evans has placed head football coach DJ Durkin on administrative leave while a comprehensive examination is conducted." All right, so this is where we are. Jordan McNair loses his life on June 13th, 2018, 2 weeks after falling ill at practice. As we go through these reports and as you do your own research, there was a lot that could have been done, and it was found that the training staff was ill prepared to handle this medical event. And we'll get into more of that as well. I just want to start there. So then, but no immediate punitive action was given to DJ Durkin on June 13th or on May 29th. So the player falls ill May 29th. He passes away, and Jordan McNair falls ill May 29th. He passes away June the 13th. Jordan McNair passes away. And it was August 11th before DJ Durkin was placed on administrative leave. All right, August 14th, 2018, President Wallace D. Lowe and athletic director Damon Evans hold a joint press conference to announce preliminary findings into their investigation of Jordan McNair's death. Lowe and Evans met with the family of McNair in Baltimore on Tuesday and apologized to the family, acknowledging there were mistakes made by the athletic training staff in the May 29th workout that ultimately led to McNair's death. The quote was, "The university accepts legal and moral responsibility for the mistakes that our training staff made." This is from President Wallace Lowe. Lowe also announced that he has formed a committee to investigate allegations of a toxic culture within the football program that brought to light by an ESPN report. Evans announced that athletic trainers Steve Nordwall, Wes Robinson, and head coach DJ Durkin are still on administrative leave. Head strength and conditioning coach Rick Court, who had previously been placed on leave, resigned from the university on this date. Both Lowe and Evans made note of the new investigation into the culture of the program and that it would be a fast process. Okay. All right. So what happens on this day? This is a big day in this timeline. They acknowledged there were mistakes made by the athletic training staff, but there hadn't been an admission of guilt, or there hadn't been uh, an indictment of guilt on Coach Durkin at the time. But based on ESPN reports that they were digging up, saying, the culture was toxic and that people felt as if they couldn't talk to Coach Durkin because they saw him so closely with Rick Court that it almost eliminated. This is from different players saying this, that it felt like it eliminated an open door policy. Okay. So we can go in and we'll look at where they said the athletic training staff was at fault. All right, here we go. According to preliminary findings, this is also on ESPN. According to preliminary findings from a university hired external investigation led by Walters Inc., we talked about this already, the Maryland staff did not take Jordan McNair's temperature at the workout, did not apply a cold water immersion treatment, and did not follow the emergency response plan appropriately. This is a quote from Damon Evans, athletic director. The care provided was not consistent with best practices, and heat illness was not properly identified or treated. Okay. According to Billy Murphy, the McNair family attorney, McNair had a body temperature of 106 degrees when he was admitted to Washington Adventist Hospital, and nobody from the university called 911 until after McNair suffered a seizure at 5 p.m. Okay, now when you dive into more of the ESPN articles, all of this is on ESPN.com. And there are links to take you to each one. This is how the day basically went, according to this article. The team was scheduled they gathered for an supervised workout around 4:15 at the outdoor practice field. It was about 80 degrees when the workouts began. And after the warm-up, the players were told to run 10 110-yard sprints. Multiple witnesses at the workout told ESPN that McNair had physical difficulty before the workout ended and needed two teammates to help him complete the 10th sprint. There's no way he finished on his own, quote, one of the players at the workout told ESPN. There were multiple people that said, wow, Jordan looks effed up. He doesn't look right at all, the player said. We knew he was really exhausted, but we didn't know he was in danger of his life. But that doesn't mean that a medical professional shouldn't know to put him in an ice tub, end quote. Multiple sources said that after the 10th sprint finished, Wes Robinson, Maryland's longtime head football trainer, yelled, drag his ass across the field, quote. A second player at the workout told ESPN Jordan was obviously not in control of his body He was flopping all around. There were two trainers on either side of him bearing a lot of weight. They interlocked their legs with his in order to keep him standing. Maryland officials said Jordan McNair, was talking to the trainers throughout, and that after the workout began, the trainers began supporting an active recovery and providing care. Multiple sources estimated the trainers walked McNair around for about 80 yards after he started showing distress. They tried to walk him around for a while after he collapsed. His head, he barely had control over it. His head was limp to the point where it was back. They were walking him across the field to get him up and moving, I guess. But then they basically took him over to position drills, which took a long time. It took a while. Another player from ESPN said it was a good distance for a guy in his state to be walking, and it was away from the athletic training building, away from any resource that he probably needed. Probably 100% the opposite way. Maryland, that's quote unquote from another player who was at the workout. All right. According to the Mayo Clinic, this is where we've got at the ESPN article once again. Heat stroke can occur when a body temperature rises to 104 degrees or higher. It requires emergency treatment, and the damage worsens the longer treatment is delayed, increasing risk of serious complications or death. All right, so that's, as a parent, that's your worst nightmare, and as a football coach, who cares? That's your worst nightmare. We know that we're in a push forward culture. We're in a culture of give it all you got, give your last on the field. We talk about it all the time, but we rarely ever talk about what happens when you literally give your last on the field. So this is tough. So apologies for those who this some of this stuff is graphic, right? And it could be harrowing, but I think to understand what's going on, you need to know the facts, right? So this is pretty um, public information. If you go do the research, it's there. Okay. All right. August 17, 2018. The University System of Maryland, the USM, Board of Regents takes over both the investigation into the May 29th workout as well as into the football team's culture. So now you've got two investigations. One, which was originally initiated by the president and the athletic director, where they were investigating the day of Jordan's passing. The day of the workout that led to his passing, and that was a separate. But the Board of Regents opened an investigation over the football toxic culture as well that Lowe and Evans were starting. So now you've got the Board of Regents. So you're taking the president and the athletic director out, and you've got somebody coming in over them to take over both investigations. Okay. Originally, Evans and Lowe selected 3 people to be on that investigation panel. Then I think Bonnie Bernstein was on there. It was a good group. As far you had some names, some people that you would understand with the names. It's like, okay, it's almost like the playoff committee, right? Like you got some name recognition is there, people who have done well in their careers that you would seem to trust their judgment. The Board of Regents added 5 more. So now it was an 8-man panel in these investigations, including former Maryland Governor Robert Ehrlich and former U.S. Congressman Tom McMillan, who was also an All-American basketball player at Maryland. On September 1st, 2018, Maryland opens the season with an upset victory over Texas at FedEx Field, and Maryland players wore a 79 patch on their jerseys and carried a 79 flag onto the field to honor Jordan McNair. You guys remember this was a huge scene. I definitely remember this. 3 weeks later, September 1st, 2018, the Board of Regents releases the findings by Rod Walters into the May 29th workout that led to McNair's death. Walters reported that Maryland athletic trainers were too late in recognizing McNair's symptoms and didn't properly treat him for heat stroke, including not implementing cold water immersion. There was a failure to identify escalating symptoms associated with exertional heat illness. This is what Walter said, including assessing vital signs, identifying the condition, and aggressively treating the patient's elevated core temperature. No apparatus was used for prompt cooling of the patient. Walters also provided a timeline of the day that showed more than 90 minutes passed from the end of the sprint workout until McNair was transported to an area hospital. USM board chair James Brady said the second investigation into the culture of Durkin's program would conclude soon. All right, so at this point, the investigation has told you that the training staff would bear lack of education, lack of action, would bear the brunt of responsibility for Jordan McNair's death. DJ Durkin would be under investigation for enabling a toxic culture that could have a part in Jordan McNair's death. That's what this investigation is about. Is this toxic culture what led to this? Okay. Okay. October 5th, 2018. This is crazy. Maryland booster Rick Jacklich, I think I'm saying his name right, made he made some controversial comments to Maryland student newspaper about McNair, saying, as much as we hate to say this, Jordan didn't do what Jordan was supposed to do. He told the Diamondback. Okay. He was removed from the team's travel party after several players saw his name on the team's itinerary. Players told football staff members that they didn't want Jacklich around any team activities. So that comment blew the players. You talk about a fractured locker room. If it wasn't already fractured, you broke it in a million places at that point with that statement. Booster or no booster. Okay. Let's go. October 19th, 2018, the commission investigates the culture of Maryland football, and they submit a report to the board and Regents. Okay. The board on October 23rd and October 25th, 2018, the board holds two meetings, one in person and one over the phone, to discuss the findings of the Maryland football culture under DJ Durkin. Several media outlets, including ESPN, obtained a copy of the 192-page report. The Board of Regents concluded that there was no toxic culture at Maryland and that the culture of the program did not contribute to McNair's death. But investigators found disturbing things about the program under Durkin's leadership, including instances of bullying and humiliation by strength coach Rick Court. It also concluded that players did not feel comfortable going to Durkin with issues. But it also said that the school had a dysfunctional athletic department that did not serve Durkin well in his development as a first-time coach. Okay, that's heavy. So the Board of Regents took this 192-page report and determined that DJ Durkin was not responsible. That's huge. That the culture would, and that even that DJ Durkin was not served by the athletic department as a whole. Okay. They have another meeting, October 26th. The Board of Regents holds another meeting at its Baltimore offices where it hears from Maryland President Lowe, Damon Evans, and DJ Durkin, athletic director, head coach, and president. They all go to the Board of Regents. Durkin impresses the board with his presentation, as board chairman James Brady later called Durkin incredibly forthright with his plan to move Maryland forward. All right, so October 30th, the Board of Regents announces its recommendations to reinstate DJ Durkin and keep Damon Evans in his role of Maryland Athletics Director. At this same news conference, President Lowe announces he will retire as president at the end of the academic year. Sources with knowledge of Lowe's decision tell ESPN that the board, which has the only authority to fire Lowe, the president, told Lowe that he would be fired if he didn't reinstate Durkin, the board's top priority. This was not Dr. Lowe's decision, a source said. Lowe repeatedly praised Evans, but did not mention Durkin at all during his opening comments. While accepting the board's recommendations, Lowe deferred the status of trainers Robinson and Nordwall to Evans. This is the Board of Regents, the head. This is Brady at this point. Brady says, "We believe that Coach Durkin has been unfairly blamed for the dysfunction in the athletic department. While he bears some responsibility, it is not fair to place all of it at his feet." Durkin returns that afternoon to a team meeting in College Park after he had been reinstated, and some players walked out in protest. Okay. He attends practice, because mind you, they're in the middle of a season while all this is going on. And Ellis McKinney, one of McNair's closest friends, tweets, "A group of people do not have the courage to hold anyone accountable for McNair's death." In that tweet, it also says, "Every Saturday, my teammates and I have to kneel before the memorial of our fallen teammate. Yet a group of people do not have the courage to hold anyone accountable for his death." If only they could have the courage that the courage that Jordan had. It's never the wrong time to do what's right. Several Maryland politicians criticized the decision to reinstate Durkin and the board's attempt to marginalize Lowe. Marty McNair, Jordan's father, at a separate news conference said, "I feel like I've been punched in the stomach and somebody spit in my face." The University of Maryland Student Government Association announces a rally on campus demanding justice for McNair and protesting Durkin's return as coach. Okay. October 31st. This is really almost exactly 7 years ago. This is what the Maryland student body president says. "People are appalled by this and says he plans to introduce legislation that calls for Lowe to fire Durkin." He also criticizes Brady, the board chair, the Board of Regents chair, saying it could not have worked out better for Brady. I haven't dug into that quote. I'll do some research, and if you guys want to and see what that means, dive in here. Political pressure continues to mount, including a second statement from Maryland Governor Larry Hogan, who says he's deeply concerned at how the Board of Regents could have possibly arrived at those decisions announced Tuesday. Hogan calls for a public meeting where the board and Lowe reconsider their decisions, ending his statement. So he's saying he wants the board to reconsider the decision and Lowe to reconsider his decision. While all this is going on, DJ Durkin leads the team in the afternoon practice that one source described as listless. All right. President Lowe, acting independent of the Regents Board, decides that Durkin must be fired. He alerts Evans, who informs Durkin in the late afternoon. Durkin is completely surprised by the decision, according to sources, leaves the team house without addressing players, and Maryland does not fire the coach for cause. Evans informs the team that Durkin has been fired and that Canada will continue as the interim coach. The the board declines to comment on Lowe's decision. Marty McNair, Jordan McNair's father, standing outside the Gossett team house, praised Lowe for removing Durkin despite pressure from the board and other influential people around Maryland. He said it's a step in the right direction. All right, so that's basically the timeline of how things happen. Now we can talk about what made people feel like the culture was so toxic, and here are some findings from that report. This is from the Diamondback. Reports find Rick Court terrorized Maryland football players and wasn't held accountable. This came out October 26, 2018. It was a firestorm going on. Now, mind you, a ton of media outlets, and they got access to this 192 page documented findings. Okay, investigators concluded that Court, who resigned in August, hold on, let's go here first. During his time with Maryland football strength and conditioning coach, Rick Court was regularly abusive towards his players and effectively accountable to no one due to communication breakdowns in the athletic department. According to results of an external investigation, we already know about the investigation. Investigators concluded that Court, who resigned in August following media reports that he helped foster a toxic team environment, made a habit of pushing players past their physical limits and embarrassing and degrading them by attacking their masculinity, and according to the report, throwing food, weights, and on one occasion, a trash can full of vomit. The 8-man commission that we know that was appointed by the Board of Regents, they interviewed hours of players, athletic department staff, parents, administration officials, and they said that Court behavior was unacceptable by any reasonable standard. Mr. Court, on too many occasions, acted in a manner inconsistent with the university's values and basic principles of respect for others. Court's time in College Park was chaotic from the start. His contract designated Durkin as his supervisor, but Court said he didn't know who he was supposed to report to. Court was tasked with aiding Durkin and formulating a plan for the program to compete in the Big Ten, according to the report. The two worked closely to the point where players saw them as the same person, the report said. Before Durkin got there, everybody reported to the head of sports performance, David Kloster. Durkin and former athletic director Kevin Anderson both told the commission they thought Kloster was responsible for overseeing Court's conduct, but Court's contract stipulated that he reported directly to the head coach. Though both Durkin and Anderson signed Court's contract, neither could tell the commission who inserted the clause establishing that chain of command. Court told the commission he never received any performance reviews and was perpetually confused as to who his supervisor was. Okay. Left unchecked and responsible for preparing a fledgling team in Big Ten competition, Court engaged in conduct that the commission described as demeaning and potentially dangerous. One former player told the commission, "I was forced to do things I couldn't do. Too much weight was put on the bar for me to lift. When I couldn't lift it, he bashed me with horrible language." Court made a habit of berating players who struggled during workout. His favorite terms were pussy bitch, excuse my language. Former player Gus Little, former player Gus Little told the commission Court that he used this epithet against him for suffering full body cramping after a difficult practice. Court denied ever addressing a player this way, but Durkin told the commission he heard Court call players both pussy bitch and pussy faggot. Durkin was also said that he was aware that Court took a box of food out of a player's hand and threw it at the wall, but told the commission he didn't think Court crossed any lines. In their report, the commission members wrote, "There is a clear line Mr. Court regularly crossed." In January 2016, according to the report, Court came up behind a player who was using a lateral pull-down machine and said, "Come on, motherfucker," and pressed the lat bar into the player's neck, choking him. According to the player's mother and two athletes that were there. That's in the report. A former player told the commission that Court told another athlete he was a waste of life and that you should just fucking kill yourself. A current player told investigators that the death of Jordan McNair was a clear culmination of a hyper aggressive culture. That's one player who said that. All right. The report also said Court went beyond the call to improve a player's health, who now, this is what he did to the player. He forced the overweight player to eat candy bars during practice, forcibly calling them fat. Wait, he made them eat candy bars. But the court also said that he went beyond the call to improve that player's health, including scheduling a procedure to address a long-standing medical problem. All right. Listen. One football staffer said, I regret not saying it to Durkin, but the kids hated Rick Court. They wanted Rick Court out of their lives. All right, that's a ton of the information. No one ever directly implicated Coach Durkin as being responsible for the death of Jordan McNair. The training staff and the culture would take culpability according to the information that we just heard. Is there a way that, and DJ Durkin has had a successful career after this, should he be absolved? Can he be absolved? Does he deserve a chance to be the head coach of a university, of Auburn University? That is up to your opinion. My goal was to bring you the facts, and to be raw about it. I've reserved my opinion on this, but I will say I've talked to multiple players, recruits, parents, and it's a tough situation because DJ Durkin wasn't there, right? He wasn't there. But did you allow somebody to run amok in your program that helped perpetuate an aggressive culture that may have led to this? And that's the question that fans, parents, administrators, decision makers, the power that be have to ask themselves. All of this information, ESPN.com has a ton of it. The Diamondback has a ton of it. CBS Sports has a ton of it. And before we get out of here, I want us to check in. So Jordan's parents, Marty and Tanya, are now educating people across the country, telling their story and educating on the dangers of heat stroke and exhaustion. The Jordan McNair Foundation, please go check them out. They're really doing really good work across the country. They did settle with the university for $3.5 million. The university also settled with two other players that reported a toxic culture at the university, that they both settled for $200,000 apiece. While doing some research, there was also an investigation into John Cohen while at Mississippi State, where a player said misdiagnosis and negligence on Cohen's part as Mississippi State's head coach caused that player in particular anguish, and it cost him a chance at a MLB career. And the player was still drafted in the 38th round. But right now, this interview from CBSNews.com was done with Tanya Wilson and Marty McNair, the parents of Jordan McNair. Now, this is what Tanya had to say. I miss him every day. I had him for a wonderful 19 years, and during that time, he never gave me a problem. He was into sports. I was the baseball mom, the soccer mom, the football mom. He is forever missed. McNair's family has turned their pain into purpose and will use some of this settlement money to further the cause of educating athletes and coaches about the dangers of heat stroke. Marty McNair said this: "One of the things that I realized is that initially we were football centric. And when I got more versed and more educated on this type of injury, we realized that this is a student athlete injury and that our crowds got bigger because we weren't just talking to the football program. We were talking to the entire athletic program. Baseball, football, track, and anyone who was out of their elements. All teams should have a solid emergency." This is Marty speaking. "All teams should have a solid emergency action plan first and foremost. That's where it starts, and that covers CPR, cold water tubs. It covers AED machines, concussion protocols, and lighting protocols. A lot of things happen, and we assume that they have these things in place, and unfortunately, we don't. So emergency action plans are first because we need to know if my child goes down or a kid goes down, who's going to do what? Who's going to make the call? What hospital are they going to? What do you have in place? A 3 to 5 minute action plan can save a life." This is Vic speaking to Tanya, the interviewer. "When you look at athletic programs, what did you think the priority for athletic programs would be if it's not the protection of the students?" She said, "Winning. That's it, winning. Push those athletes. Push them, push them, push them, push them. At the end of the day, it's all about a win. But they will quickly tell you that the emphasis only on wins can result in the loss of a life. A message that is now sinking in across the country. So far, the Jordan McNair Foundation has educated more than 7,500 parents, coaches, and student athletes and provided cooling tubs to schools from Alaska to Miami, Florida. Marty McNair has also captured Jordan's story in the book, Can My Child Play? The Questions We Should Have Asked. So make sure you go check that book out. Make sure you check out the Jordan McNair Foundation. And look, that's probably one of our longest shows, but I thought it was important for us to dive in and figure out what really happened in Maryland and not use 2-second tweets to help us form an opinion. Two things are true. DJ Durkin was never formally charged or implicated in the loss of life of Jordan McNair. And Jordan McNair lost his life. How you connect those two is probably the opinion that you'll form on DJ Durkin as a potential head coach at Auburn University. All right, that's my time, guys. Shoot, man, drop in the comments what you think and where we want to go next, because at the end of the day, there's a lot to talk about with the future of Auburn University, and I'll be all over here on the Scoop with Dukes.